This segment's being sponsored by the Tennessee Wildlife Resources Agency. Join us in preserving and protecting Tennessee's wildlife. All right, guys, this segment's being sponsored by Taylor's Archery at 100 East Lauderdale Street in Tullahoma, Tennessee. You guys can reach out to owner Tracy Taylor at 931-563-7706 to let them take care of all your archery needs. You got a few more weeks, that main season opens up, and it'll be wide open from there on. So get down there and see Taylor's and let them get you taken care of. All right, guys, welcome back. I tell you what, if you want to go ahead and start calling in, you can do that now, 615-737-7767. And guys, while we're trying to get a few callers coming in here, let's talk a little bit about some of these rods you've got in here with us, Dayton. Now, the first one you've got here, you've got a buzz bait set up on it. Let's talk about the rod, the line weight, and, you know,
this is an older model, APX, All Pro APX, but it's got the 8:3 ratio Shimano on it, okay? The 200 XG. So this is an 8:3 ratio reel. So when I throw this buzz bait, I'm not trying to wind as fast as I can to catch up to it. I can just do a couple of cranks and get my bait to the top.
Yeah.
Now, this is pretty much what I use only on this bait, unless I might want to put a flipping jig. Because bigger rods like this are for bigger baits.
Now, what is the rod length and weight and everything here?
Well, this rod length is almost an 8-footer, and it's a 3/4 to ounce and a half weight. So I can put up to 30-pound test line on this rod.
Okay.
You know what I mean? 17 to 30.
Yeah.
So that's what matters on a lot of reels. And if you read the books on these, it'll tell you how many yards of line this reel will hold when you purchase it. And a lot of spinning reels have it on the spool.
And you want to keep it close to full, don't you?
Right. And this particular rod's not a heavy action. It's a medium heavy. So I've still got some tip for my top water, and I've still got some tip for flipping a light jig and not breaking the line.
Right, absolutely. I mean, and again, you want it full because you're not going to get that 8:3 ratio.
If you do not have your line, if you don't have your reel plumb full, it will not do the ratio.
That's right. It'll change it.
Right.
Go ahead while you're getting another one out there. We got some callers coming in. We're going to go ahead and catch one. Lex, how are you doing tonight?
Hello?
How are you doing tonight, Lex?
Hey, I'm doing good.
How can we help you tonight?
Yes, sir. Dove hunt last week. Before shooting time early, we had a bunch of big flocks come in. I mean, 15 to 20. And each flock come in to work the field, and they were big doves. And they looked like nothing I've ever seen around here. And somebody told me they were collared doves. And I didn't know if there was a limit on those or if they was, you know, part of your regular bag or whatever.
No.
We didn't get none because it was before shooting time.
Okay.
I was wondering if y'all could help me out with that.
Yeah, what that is a collared dove. It's a Eurasian collared dove, and they are not considered. There's no limit on them because of the fact that they are not a species here. They're invasive species, and you can shoot them along with the regular season. Now, you're correct. You couldn't have shot them before the season opened there at noon, but there is not a limit on them. They don't go towards your regular bag limit, and they're very easy to tell with it. They're kind of like a pigeon size. Well, of course you saw some, but to tell anybody watching, they're about the size of a pigeon, but they look very much like a mourning dove.
They reminded me of teal working.
Yeah,
right. And you will probably want to leave the head on those. You know, a lot of people will take, but those you'll probably want to leave the head on your creel so they can identify that bird pretty easy.
Yeah, and they do have that ring. It's a very distinguishable ring. So I mean, you can tell. But we get them every once in a while in our fields. Sometimes you get a field like you mentioned there that'll have a bunch of them. I've heard of some fields that have a bunch of them, but they've been around more and more in the last few years.
I will be. All right, buddy. That's all I had for you.
Absolutely. Thanks for calling, and good luck to you if you get back after them this weekend.
Okay, love the show, man.
Thank you. Have a good night.
All right.
Michael, how you doing tonight?
Good, how about you?
Doing well. We appreciate you calling. How can we help you tonight?
I'm looking for some advice on Old Hickory because we've been struggling catching fish for the last couple of days.
Okay.
Well, the back of the creeks are plumb full of minnows right now. Like if you go in the back of Barton Spring, Bledsoe, Drake's Creek, Spencer Creek, as far back as you can go, they're back there chasing bait right now. You can throw a small rattle trap, a white spinner bait, a white chatterbait, a lipless, you know, a small crankbait like a 1.0, but that's where they've went. It's hard to catch them on the river. You might find some in the grass on a rat, and a buzz bait, but 90%, not 90%, but a lot of the shad have worked their way in the back of the creeks, and that's where a lot's going on. So,
and what you mentioned too, matching the hatches. That's what's going on.
Yeah, and 90% of the minnows in the back of the creeks are like 2 inches long.
Terry, what did we see on Center Hill a couple weeks ago? Same thing. I mean, it looked like the water was
just
boiling.
big balls of bait.
And this happens every year.
Yeah.
So that's why it's very important to document every day you fish.
Right.
Because every year these shad do this. So this time next year, if you go over there and catch them in this bait, you can guarantee next time, within a week or two of this time, you can do it again.
Yeah, start setting your counter. That's what we do with crappie spots all the time.
I mean, that's what it takes.
Yeah, with our bank spots and things, there's certain times people ask how we stay productive on the banks for so long. It's because we're going to different spots on the bank, and a lot of that's by time. Terry and I both, we talk about it. Well, it's, you know, man, it's the second week of February. They ought to be in here. Well, it's second week of March. They ought to be in here, and it's got a lot to do with that. But right now, hopefully you can get in the back of those creeks and find some fish on Old Hickory. They're in there. They're being stingy right now, but they're in there.
They're going in the back of the creeks on a lot of lakes, not just Old Hickory, but that's what they're doing.
Good luck to you out there, Michael.
Thank you.
Nathaniel, how are you doing tonight? Do I still have you, Nathaniel? We're going to try again, but I don't think we have you. Nathaniel? Okay, if you want to, try to call back in. Somehow we've lost you. Until then, so what do you have in your hands now,
All right,
Dave?
this is a 6-footer, and it's rated for a 1/4 to 1 ounce bait.
Okay.
All right, and it's, you know, you can use 12 to 17 pound test line on this rod. You wouldn't want to throw this big 1/2 ounce buzz bait on this shorter pole.
Right.
It's more for working
It'd
a
be
spook.
loaded up as soon as you...
Yeah, I mean, you're just going to be chasing yourself. So this rod is good for like Ned rigs.
One of my favorites.
A little Texas rig worm, even a spook. Shorter handled rods are a lot easier to work topwater lures than your flipping sticks, because it kind of gets out of your way.
Yeah.
But you can put, you know, 12, 15, 17, or 10 on this particular rod. You could throw a worm. You could throw a smaller spinner bait. You could throw a pop-ar and just stuff like that, but nothing big.
Right. Very sensitive rod, more sensitive, more finesse, like I was talking last week. A lot of the fishing I do, I use Ned rigs, wacky rig, you know, worm, things like that. And I use a rod a lot more similar to this.
Right.
Whereas a lot of times you're throwing one of these heavier rods. But
And Terry's got the crappie version. Tell him what that is, Terry.
Right here, you're gonna have like a 1000 series, 6.5 with about 4 pound test line. Looks like he's gonna be using 432nd on there.
Yeah. Now that's shell cracker, been premeditated shell cracker crappie. That's a both.
Yes.
So.
But same thing, you've got to have that, and there you're looking at 4 pound tests, where, you know, crappie fishing, Terry and I both 4 pound tests a lot of times. For us, 6 pound tests getting heavy. You're getting heavy line there.
I'll use,
you know,
6 pound test line, especially when they're coming in for spawn, because
you
you're gonna have a lot of
those
heavy
trees.
So here's how I can best tell everybody. Each bait I have on this pole, that's pretty much what stays on that pole.
All the time.
I mean,
That's
you
true.
have a rod
He's
for a
telling the
buzz bait,
truth.
you have a rod for a spinner bait, you have a flipping rod, a jerk bait rod, you have a bluegill rod, a crappie rod, a shell cracker rod.
Yeah.
It's hard to take one pole.
And what we're talking about tonight is actually, why is that? You know, why do you see that so much? Let's go, Nathaniel, I think we got him again. Nathaniel? Nathaniel? Nathaniel, do we have you now?
Yes, sir. You got me now.
All right.
Sorry we had so much trouble. How are you doing tonight?
I'm good tonight. I was calling to see if it is illegal to gig Asian carp out of a boat.
I'm not going to act like I know the answer to that right off the
I
top of
don't
my
either.
head. Do you know?
Nope.
I'll find out for you. So you want to know if you can gig Asian carp from a boat? I bet I can have that before the end of this show, but if I can't, we'll get it to you as soon as we can.
Okay, I appreciate it.
I believe you can, but I'm not going to sit here and tell you
Right.
that.
I mean, I'm
Let's
sure
find
you
out
can
for
bow
sure.
hunt. Right.
I know there's a lot of laws on gigging.
There
so I
are
wasn't
gigging
for
is
sure.
different than bow fishing, and I know a little more about the bow fishing laws, but not gigging.
Right.
So let me find out about that for you. That's a great question.
All right.
So
thank
be
you.
listening for us. We'll get you an answer. All right.
sir.
Have a great night.
Yeah.
Larry, how are you doing tonight?
Good. How are y'all doing tonight?
Doing
All right.
Good. I always enjoy watching your program.
We appreciate that.
I have a question about these carp. I believe a gentleman hit on it just a minute ago, but seeing a ton of them on the Tennessee River this summer. Every time we were down last week, we go about once or twice a week, and there's just a ton of them up at the top of the water. And I'm just wondering, are these the invasive Asian carp, and what are they doing all on top of the water? Are they eating algae? Are they trying to breathe? What's going on with those?
They are mainly feeding us while you're seeing them at the top. Now, they're not all Asian carp, but some are.
A lot of them are.
A lot of them are, yeah, as a matter of fact. But there are other species of carp in the water. Some of them are good to have around, but a lot of what you're seeing, unfortunately, on the Tennessee River system is Asian carp. They're coming up feeding. I don't know if they come up for any other reason, but I do know they come up and feed on
Here's
plankton.
what they do. Asian carp feed on the plankton that our shad and everything else need. That's why they're such a destructive fish. So shad rely on the same plankton, but they come through in such a big group, and that's what you're seeing, like an acre of Asian carp.
It's like a vacuum.
They're sucking all and then that's why the shad dissipate and go away, because there's nothing for them left. And they are doing stuff, but they're so invasive that the netters and stuff, there needs to be 30 more of them. The state, and I mean, they're going to work their way up the waterway. You can't stop them now. There's no way to stop them, but you can try to maintain it. But they've been fishing for them for Kentucky Lake now for 5 years. They're wearing them out, but it just doesn't help. I mean, it's just a battle that's going to carry, and it's going to keep working upriver.
Wow, yeah, I'm seeing them like I've never seen before. And one concern is I've seen videos of boats going, traveling on the river and scaring these carp and these schools of carp just jumping up. Are these the same?
Yes, absolutely. That's the big head Asian carps.
And they're dangerous. We've had them jump in on us before going across the lake on Kentucky Lake one time. So.
And you wouldn't believe how big they get and where they are today as far as your dams. Cordell Hull Dam, Priest, they're everywhere now. They're
the ones I'm seeing look like they're weighing about anywhere from 5 on up to 10, 15 pounds, which would be really dangerous going through and school of them and jumping up. I haven't had that happen yet, and hopefully it don't. But thanks a lot. That answered a lot of my questions about those.
And the more they bring those lakes down, the more smaller those groups of carp get. When they pull Kentucky Lake and Barkley down, I mean, it makes those fish even get more non-areas to go.
Hey, we've seen it look like the water was boiling.
Right. I mean, it is, and it's something major. It's not. I mean, it's really affecting our bodies of water.
It is. Thank you so much for calling, and thanks for being patient with us tonight. We're trying to get you on there. Have a good one.
Thank you. I love you guys. God bless.
You too. Have a great night. Awesome. Well, Dayton, look here. Let's move to, now we have a big spoon tied on. Now, I know what you use that for.
Right. Now, this is now I'll use this for bass fishing and hybrid fishing in the summertime when they get out on the drops, these big spoons. But once again, I'm using 20 on a flipping stick because I'm catching big fish. Now, come springtime, this will be my flipping stick. You got me?
So that one does dual purpose.
You have so many rods. That's what they're for. It's a dual purpose. That's right, dual purpose. Flip, spoon. You know, you're not going to want to really throw a great big top water. You can. Now, I would throw a buzz bait on it.
A big spook or something.
Right, a big spook's better because you don't have to have the 8-3 ratio for a spook necessarily.
Right.
A spook's a walking bait. Now, you go to Kentucky Lake, you'll have to work it fast. You'll probably want 8-3. It's just different on different bodies of water. But once again, you can take a flipping stick and jerk a spoon or flip a jig, and depending on your line. And like I said, remember, on your spinning reels and your booklets, it tells you how many yards that reel will hold of each line. And if your spool says it's a max of 12, if you put 14 or 16, it's just going to blow off the end of it and not work right.
Right.
So there's a lot to that. There's a lot of applying your line to your reels. Like a bait caster, people are going to argue with me on this. It don't matter how you put your line on here. If you let it sit on here overnight, it'll be straightened out. Now, it makes a difference on a spinning reel. If you don't put the line right on a spinning reel, when you go to throw it, it will absolutely be a mess. But bait casters really don't have a kinking or
It's
twisting.
coming straight in line
Right,
either
pretty
way.
much.
It's coming straight in line either way. And we'll talk a little bit about, we'll get another spinning rig here in just a little while on the next segment, and we'll talk about what you're talking about with putting that line on there.
Right.
Because there's a particular way to do it, or you'll be real irritated if you
Right.
don't do it right. So we'll get into that. Right now, let's go over and do this week's tip of the week. This week's tip of the week has been brought to you by our friend Wes Stone over at Crowd-Like Realtors. Y'all can reach out to Wes at 615-289-9551, or you can stop in and see him at 1432 West Main Street in Lebanon, Tennessee, or give him a call there at the office, 289-9551, and let him take care of all your real estate needs. All right, now Terry, what you got down there for us
Tip
tonight,
of the week
buddy?
is, if you're gonna flip it, tip it. Right here. When them fish are finicky, they can't resist it.
It sure does make a big,
power bait
big
niblets
difference.
or
Those
something.
power baits do.
I'll put it on everything.
And now, Terry, this is his color right
That's
here.
right.
All
Sure,
right.
true.
I like to use a white one.
a silver
Sometimes a
flake?
pink one will work, but Terry makes fun of my pink ones. But nonetheless, guys, absolutely. If
It's
they're
a necessity.
finicky fish, yes. I mean, sometimes you can just throw whatever jig in there you want to, and the crappie will bite. Those right there, when they want to be
You know how to
finicky.
tell where crappie's biting if you fish off the bank or off of somewhere?
How's
Look
that?
and see if you see niblets on the ground right there.
You see where
If the
somebody
ground's
drops
got
a
about
niblet?
25 dirty niblets or mashed
Two
niblets.
tips in one this week.
That's right.
How you like it?
That
Look for
won't be
crappie
my
niblets.
spot, because if I drop some, I'm kicking them in the water.
That's right.
All right, guys, we're going to get ready to take another quick break. We'll be right back with some more Southern Woods and Waters.